Down. What's up, everybody? You are tuned into season 2 of the Elks Call presented by Shotgun Sports. My name is Scout, aka the rep from Section X.
And I'm Catherine, aka Do You Even Elks?
And today we are joined by friend of the herd and fellow Edmonton Elks fan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Brian Howe, aka Stan the Caddy. Brian, how are you doing today, my man?
Thank you so much, guys. I'm doing so good. So happy to be a part of this.
Oh, it's fantastic to have you here today. The background looks just a little bit familiar, I think.
Weird. I've also been here a time or two.
It's almost like you're literally right around the corner from us. So, fantastic to have you here on the show. Great to have you here in Edmonton. Brian here hails from Kitchener, Ontario, but he's here with us today. So, once again, man, thanks a lot for joining us. Now, we're going to dig into this show in just a moment. But first, we'd like to thank everybody for joining us today. Whether you're tuning in on our YouTube, which is Shotgun Sports Network, maybe you're watching on Facebook on the Elks Herd, or maybe you're listening on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Edmonton Sports Talk, or wherever you get your podcasts. While we're here, if you can hit the like, subscribe, or favorite button, we would greatly appreciate it. Today's lineup for another Stack show is as follows. We're going to open up with the More You Didn't Know with Brian Howe. After that, we're going to give you Kathy's Herd Report talking about the latest Edmonton Elks news and transactions. Following that, we're going to give you an Edmonton sports update. And then we're going to cap the show with the fan forum fan favorite. That's where we discuss hot topics surrounding the Edmonton Elks and the CFL as a whole. So, guys, make sure to blow up the herd chat so you can get your comments and questions onto the show. Ryan Messer, we see you in the herd chat. Yo, Ryan Messer. Let's kick off this show, though. Let's kick off this show with The More You Didn't Know, brought to you by the Winnipeg Terminal. Catch the flight with Mike and Joe every week, talking all things Jets and Bombers on Shotgun Sports Network. Feels up. All right, the more you didn't know. In this segment, we're going to talk to Brian about his sports fandom and his opinion on the Edmonton Elks thus far. Which there's a lot of things we can talk about here today. Once again, for anybody that is watching, please make sure you blow up the herd chat with your questions and comments, and we will definitely do our best to get them onto the show. Let's do this. The more you didn't know, Brian. We know you're a big sports fan. We got like I know that there's like a lot of leagues. We're gonna get into that, but what was your first sports memory? Like, how did your fandom progress to where you're at now?
For every sport, or do you just mean CFL specifically?
Well, no, in general, what was your first sports memory? What kind of kick started your?
My first sports memory was my uncle taking me to a Blue Jays game, September of 1993. So it would have been just right before that playoff run for the back-to-back. And that was my fondest memory so far.
How old were you?
Oh, I'd have been 6.5.
Yeah, see, that's exciting. That's exciting when you think about, things that just shape who you are as a person, how early that can start.
Right, those early core memories.
Yes.
It's crazy how early they can start and what can trigger them. But yeah, it's those special moments. You never realize in the moment, though, who potentially like future Hall of Famers that you're seeing, like Griffey or Jay Buhner or those kind of guys. And then you'll think back and look ahead now to 20 years, 30 years later, and you're like, oh, cool. What did they turn out to be?
Oh, crazy. Just like Andrea says here in the herd chat, right? Good time for a Blue Jays game, 93. Joe Carter.
Right. Actually, speaking of Joe Carter, me and you obviously with the great opportunity to meet said legend.
Oh, fantastic day.
Wow.
And now, based on that, would you say that the Blue Jays are part of your favorite sports teams now?
Growing up an hour away from Toronto, kind of hard not to be. Also have played at the Rogers Center a couple times myself. So, yeah, definitely some soft spots.
That's cool. Do you have any other favorite sports teams other than the Blue Jays?
We got the Maple Leafs. One of those diehards that's been a Leafs fan all my life. Thank you to my Aunt Mona that got me into them when I was young. But, like the Dallas Cowboys, they always break your heart.
Yeah. Well, listen, we know a little bit about that over here. Over here in Edmonton.
You guys have got the championships, though, in your lifetime. We're still kind of waiting.
In your lifetime, yeah, I guess that's the point.
Well, we got the Jays, so after battle.
So I would assume then that you've seen the Jays in person, you've seen the Leafs in person, you've even seen the Edmonton Elks in person. What other teams have you got to see live?
I've been to the Stanley Cup final game in Detroit in 2009, so I got to see Pittsburgh and Detroit. Went to the Mellon Arena in Pittsburgh before it closed down. Been to the Saddle Dome in Calgary, which, rival city. But speaking of which, excited to see what their new arena is going to look like. But with any technology or kind of advancements, you're hoping to see what kind of arenas they can come up with these days.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to say that it's going to look the same as Rogers Place or very comparable. So, we'll see.
I think Rogers is always going to be a lot more beautiful. Now, Andrea here in the herd chat, did I hear right? Brian is a Cowboys fan. I think he was referring to how the Maple Leafs seem to flounder all the time. But Brian, your NFL team is?
Also from Texas, but not the Cowboys. I am a Houston Texans fan.
There you go.
That's also thanks to not even strictly football, J.J. Watt. How could you not love that guy's personality and all he did for that city after the hurricane?
Good old boy from Wisconsin,
Building in mansions.
Only T-Pain could rhyme. Mansion in Wisconsin.
Oh, and we have here John, who's always, talking smack a little bit.
In
and
the
we
herd
love
chat.
him for it.
I love it.
The Bears are going to win tomorrow. Sorry, Brian.
It's okay. It's a Hall of Fame game. You got to get your feet wet to begin the season. It's all a fun game.
You know what, John, to combat that, Jordan Love has the keys to Soldier Field, okay? So go Pack, it's not just A-Rod anymore.
Listen, don't bring the Bears up because we have Packers, fan over here that is constantly saying.
The groups are just unbearable. But anyways, let's get back to the CFL here. Brian, you're an Edmonton Elks fan, despite being to the Argonauts and the Tiger Cats. Why are you an Edmonton Elks fan despite living in Ontario?
Sometimes it's not always where you grew up, and sometimes certain teams just draw you in. When I became an Elks fan, it was the fan base. The fans are what got me hooked and sunk into enjoying the game, and obviously that was a few years ago before the losing streak at home, but it was still a super enjoyable experience with all the fans and just the camaraderie. It was part of a lot of Edmonton sports are just literally that. It's all about the fans. So that's it. Like being from Toronto, it's more business aspect, more, hey, take your clients here to the game, take them to sporting events. Edmonton, I find it's more take your buddy to the game. We're going to have a couple of beers and have a good time.
That's cool. That's cool to hear. I personally don't have a lot of experience with other fan bases. Perhaps maybe Toronto would have been my only other experience so far. And fortunately for us, we ran into people that have very much that same mentality, right? Yeah. It's about welcoming your buddies. Let's have a good time. This is for everybody. So it's really cool to hear that even people from other parts of the country see us Edmonton Elks fan as that we're definitely welcoming. And
that is nice. And somewhere else where they're very welcoming, we all got to go to a game at BMO Field last year. Right. Yeah. And Ginger Argo and his crew over there, they brought us in like we were their own, right?
Right. As a fan of the Elks herd and just as friends of you guys, to go and be from Toronto, have you guys fly in, visit, go to a game, but then get recognized by so many people. It was kind of surreal.
That was really sweet. We also saw the cash cab. There was a lot of really cool parts about that. I lost a passport. I think. I hope the government of Canada is listening. Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
I have that passport.
Yes.
I ended up finding it, but believe it is expired now.
Oh, it is definitely expired. I just want to make sure that it didn't make it into the wrong hands because the government would question me because that would be like number 3 or number 4 I've lost.
Would you look at that developments here at the Elks Call?
This is amazing.
Brian has been around for a couple of days, and we just learned about this here now live.
This is an Elks Call. An Elks Call miracle. But yes, I did actually want to ask you a question here from the herd chat. John here is asking, Brian, thoughts on the Toronto CFL team playing at BMO Field, which is a soccer stadium. What's your thoughts on that?
It's a nice stadium. But for me as a football fan, I like to be a little closer to the action. But that's just literally being super picky. Good coverage, good venue as far as I'm concerned. I've only been there once, so it's kind of hard to really compare. I've only been to 2 CFL stadiums, if you want to call BMO Field a CFL stadium. It is equipped for everything, but I mean, better equipped than what the Skydome was years ago.
Oh, that's very true.
And I mean, seeing that you've only been to a couple of CFL stadiums and one of them being Commonwealth, of course, what would do you say you like it better?
So you got to have some history there. History doesn't define a stadium, but it does certainly make the legacy a little bit bigger and better. With the length of Commonwealth and how long it's been around and the history behind it and how much has gone on at Commonwealth, there's that legacy there. BMO Field just doesn't quite have that yet. I'm not saying it can't happen, but yeah, it's kind of hard.
It's not the same. It's not the same.
No, how else do you say it?
Sorry.
No, sorry, that's it. I was just going to say, how else do you say it? It's just not the same.
Yeah, I think what I was kind of going for is just the sheer size. I mean, one of the biggest things that we've seen right now is that we don't get enough people to fill a place like Commonwealth Stadium, which is why we closed the Upper Bowl for that specific reason. BMO Field is a lot smaller, and in many ways, it being smaller, it makes it look a lot fuller. It makes it feel like there's a lot more people. Maybe the ambiance and everything's a lot more electric in that way. And I know that somebody here, I did see it here in St. John. The stands used to be electric here at Commonwealth.
Exactly.
We don't necessarily see it anymore. So with that, BMO being smaller, do you think that's a better venue because of that better environment?
Yeah, it does kind of bring more of an intimate aspect to it when you're a little bit more closer and everybody's more involved. But the on-field product also does impact the butts in the seats.
No, and that's very true. What I will say about BMO, it was when I was meeting Pinball and I was trying to make my way up to Adam Goss. Fortunately, couldn't get there, but I ran into Pinball, and I knew that we were obviously on offense because it was going crazy. The tin can effect was going wild in BMO, right? So it was really cool to see how, yes, the fans do get electric in that small sample size, but we're also talking about 12,000 fans in comparison to the 20, 30, sometimes 40.
Yeah.
Haven't seen the 40s in a while here, but once again, going back to St. John's comment in the herd chat.
It used to be like that.
It used to be like that, right? Now, with Toronto winning and having Chad Kelly, what does suck is they had the momentum going, stalled out because obviously there was some off-season stuff, off-season news that came about, right? And whatever, that's not our problem. It does set them back a little bit. It's just like us. Yeah. Every loss here in Edmonton, you lose another clump of fans. There was a clump of fans comment by St. John as well in here. You can still feel it in the small clumps of faithful, but I miss the hot tubs starting the wave.
I've heard about that.
Yes,
Never heard that one.
you could be able to tell from when you scored from blocks away.
Right.
The fans used to go crazy here, and Brian, you've been a part of that. So let's kind of dig into that. We know that you've seen the Double E in person, both pre and post Elks rebrand. I wish I could have gotten you the picture quick enough, but Brian's in one of my favorite profile pictures, the TSN double flex. The guy's in behind saying, "Lord, help me." You're sitting there staring at the scoreboard, right? Very epic picture. So that was before they rebranded to the Edmonton Elks. Here we are. Currently, you just saw the Edmonton Elks play last season. What's your thoughts on the new name, and does it affect your fan?
I don't think the name change necessarily changes a lot of the fans' views on the team per se. Sure, it might, how do I want to put it? Not change their views, but some people don't like change. So obviously they're not going to necessarily agree with it. They might not necessarily be against it. They might just not know how to feel. But Elks, Eskimos, it's still Edmonton regardless. It's still green and gold. You're still the Double E. There's still a lot of those same things that go with being an Edmonton Elk Eskimo.
Nice.
You know what? And I wish that a lot more people around here saw it that way.
Oh,
Right? Because now we have people that are Edmontonians that don't even see it that way. That just because of a single shift, a little change, they don't recognize that it's still all of those things. It's still Edmonton, it's still Double E, it's still green and gold.
Just people are very regimented and don't like change. And sometimes even like that kind of small, minute thing, just people don't care for.
It's so frustrating.
And that being said, we've talked about the name change and how delusional people are when they say that it affects the team. Let's just put it that way. But what are your thoughts on the current state of the team?
I mean, top down, there could be improvements in all sorts of ways. Like from ownership down, there's got to be accountability everywhere. And honestly, people just need to start doing better. When you look at the standings or the stats and you're near the bottom of almost every statistical category, something has to change. So, I mean, you change the coach. I mean, it's not going to change overnight. Things are going to take a little bit of time to happen, but I guess preach patience and hopefully make a couple changes. Don't do anything drastic, but you can't hope to change absolutely everything and hope it's going to work.
Yeah.
And I think that's the scary part, right? That we all know and understand that there needs to be changed.
Yeah.
But at the same time, even I know we'll talk a little bit about it. We've kind of briefly mentioned it last week about the possibility of just doing a full, just change everything from the ground up, top down, bottom to top. And how scary is that though, right? Is that really even the right decision? That there's a lot of what ifs, a lot of moving parts that, like, where do you start? What do you change first?
Well, and we're going to talk about that in the fan forum later on. There is a comment in the herd chat that I liked if we just scroll up just a little bit. So John's solution here: Green Bay Packers versus Edmonton Elks. Whoever wins gets to keep the green and gold, and whoever loses has to change their colors.
Like, how many times? What was it? I was looking for something in particular. I was looking for a picture for one of our graphics, and I got super confused when I was looking at these pictures. I'm like, why is there this doesn't look like MBT? And I was being shown pictures of love in the Green Bay Packers, and it looked exactly the same, and I was so confused for a second. So yes, I agree. Battle it out.
and Sinjin also here in the herd chat. I feel the same way with the name. The Double E is all that matters. They don't shy away or edit articles about the past team. Eskimos is written on jerseys and posters throughout the facility. And then Daryl Henderson. I want the yellow numbers back. Can the owner make that happen?
First change. Number one, little steps, one at a time. Let's bring the yellow numbers
I can tell you that the gold numbers will be most likely returning next year, because this is the last year that the white numbers will, like, I think they're under contract. This is the last year of the contract.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I know, that's obviously not confirmed and does not come directly from the team, but speculation, widespread speculation, and that's why they also put the gold outline on those new numbers as well.
But think about it, right? Like how little really it takes to make certain fans happy.
Yeah.
Right? Even changing the color of a jersey to yellow numbers would bring a lot of happiness to a lot of people.
Because that's tradition. That's tradition. Just like Andrea is saying here in the Herd Chat, yes, the Eskimos era, that's the Eskimos. Current era is Elks, but nobody's erasing that Eskimos history. At the same time, you need to still connect the two. Mm-hmm. So by bringing in white numbers, that was never a good choice by the organization. Let's be real. The white numbers made you look like the Green Bay Packers. Like, you watch a lot of NFL, bro. Well, like, white numbers are not associated with the Edmonton Elks.
No, changes will happen, though. People aren't going to like them.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. And maybe that was a bit of an NFL experiment. Try to make them a little bit more like the Packers to make fans view. That still doesn't make sense.
I think my point was that it really doesn't take much to bring some positivity into this team, right? And I mean, we'll talk a little bit about it as well as we talk about the whole Trey situation, but even look at what putting Trey in did for the fandom in just 10 minutes, right? Even if it doesn't take too much to make people feel heard. If it's bringing back yellow numbers, starting Trey in a couple of games, you know, those things that you're at least showing that you're listening to the fans and you're taking what they say into consideration, then those are really good steps at bringing back the faith, I think, and some of that confidence and some of that, you know, I don't know, trust. I guess that would be the
trust and tradition. Trust and tradition, right? It's just, you need to still follow your traditional ways, and the moment you stride away from that, you have issues and you lose. Yes, here we go, right? St. John talking about the Trent Brown. We are going to talk about that. Brian, also at the end of the More You Didn't Know, I think we're going to ask you your opinion on this. But with Trent Brown coming in stating that the alumni and shareholders are not being utilized or even consulted for opinions or anything like that, it does feel shady. If you're going to respect them, listen to them.
Right? What's the point of asking somebody's opinion if you're just going to turn around and do the exact opposite?
Well, yeah, let's just hash this right now, right? Like that Trent Brown.
Let's talk about it right now.
Seriously, Brian just heard it right before we went live here, and he got to hear a very notable alumnus go off on the Edmonton Elks and how bad the board and those top end types have let down the fans, have let down the alumni, have let down sponsors, have let down so many people, and all of that trickles down. Like, would you say that all trickles down to your team, Brian?
Oh, 100%. If you have no faith in your ownership or your management, where do you go on the field? Because it trickles down through management to your coaches, to everybody, and then you almost have a little self-doubt, and you're like, well, what are we doing? Where's our purpose?
I saw it from Dave Campbell, I believe, that, you know, he mentioned that when you get to a record like 0-7, that we know that's when players start to check out.
Yeah.
And and this is all coming from the top down, and if there's a lot of these kinds of talks going around, a lot of speculations, a lot of, you know, even the players seeing that the shareholders, stakeholders, or whoever representatives are not being heard, who are they to think that their needs are going to be heard too?
Here's the thing, right? I hate to speak extremely, like I hate to get this heated about it, but when the board doesn't care,
right,
the players aren't gonna care, and that's unfortunately the land that we have brought ourselves to. Tom Richards and company, unfortunately, even though he's a former player, even though he's had multiple opportunities to right this ship, the board has never been sufficient. The board's operations. We're talking about volunteers here. And you can't tell me that anybody will volunteer their way to caring about a team to the point where they hurt themselves, to the point where they go through sleepless nights and everything else. And maybe they are, but without money, you can only care so much without money. That's where I'm going with that.
Where's the incentive? There's no incentive if you're just playing for free.
What you get an organizational championship ring. Congratulations.
Well, no, and I think if you're passionate about a team and you want to volunteer for the team, it's because you have that passion behind it, right? But if what you're saying, your opinions, your advice, your insights are not being accounted for, then why the hell would you even want to be part of that organization?
That's exactly it. There's no accountability. Yeah. And that's what Trent Brown was describing. Like Stan the Cat, Brian here, immediately identified. He's like, yeah, nobody's accountable. There's zero accountability. You just keep firing people. And you just keep hiring people. And you just keep churning and you churn and you churn. You know, look at Chris Jones year one. Sure, you're going to expect some churn of players and guys in and out, and you're trying to plug and play and see what works best, and you build upon that year two, sure. But this organization has never been able to do that above the roster for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
You look at the Brock Sunderland years.
It's a revolving door.
It's a revolving door. So when you see that, how do you have faith in who you're working for? That's the problem. Nobody has any faith in their bosses over in Commonwealth Stadium. And we say this in an opinion. We don't know anything on the other side of the fence. But based on what Trent Brown said today, and it is true, everybody should listen. That doesn't mean that you don't need to cheer for the team. That doesn't mean that there's things that aren't fun or there's nothing fun with the Edmonton Elks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun to be had. And we're going to talk about it in the next question here. Yeah. We took a little pit stop to talk about this. But the reality is that if your bosses at the top don't give a damn, you're not going to give a damn at the bottom as a peon. It doesn't in an organizational structure.
And especially if there's no compensation, like you said, Brian, right? I mean,
like playing poker for free. It's a free tournament. You play a lot differently than you do when you're paying to play.
Very much so.
That's
right?
it.
And I think that's why, I mean, well, I understand that there's a lot of really good things about community owned. I feel like with community ownership, if you have stakeholders and if you have advisors, everybody needs to be accounted for and
consulted
100%, because otherwise you're just this one person running an organization and everybody else gets absolutely nothing.
Dictatorship.
On the other hand, by having a sole ownership or an ownership group being in charge of it, now there's some sort of compensation
that's their money on the line.
That's your job. At that point, it's your job to make this happen.
That's exactly it. And that's like this is a fan form question, but we're gonna hash it out right now anyways, right? You know, how fast does this team need to get to private ownership? How fast do they need to announce it? How fast do they need to get rid of this goddamn board?
Yeah.
Really? No, based on what Trent Brown, and it's not like we're talking about a Pete Sender coming out and talking. It's not like we're talking about, you know, a fringe player or player that was with the team for a year or two. We're talking about Trent Mother effing Brown, who is somebody that is highly regarded, highly respected. Oh, James H. Brown is one of the biggest sponsors of the Edmonton Elks. So let's talk about somebody that has put his heart and soul, however he can, into the organization as an alumni member. And he feels that the alumni don't get the respect that they deserve. They don't even get proper use of the alumni room, which is, we thought it was Victor Cui. It wasn't Victor Cui. This stuff's coming from the board.
Yeah.
When you see certain alumni posting on Facebook that this is rotten from the core, this begs the question, how fast does ownership need to be announced? Brian, what's your thoughts?
How do you not look internally when your longest standing members of the team are disgruntled and aren't happy? Like, these guys have been members of the organization for how many years and been a part of it, and they want to come and enjoy the atmosphere and enjoy a game or the amenities, and they can't even do that. How do you come somewhere and leave unhappy?
It's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because a lot of these alumni are diehard fans, right? They were part of the organization and they have it so ingrained in them that they truly, truly want the best for the organization, even if they no longer play for the organization. And then to hear words like that the organization is rotten to the core, it's pretty heartbreaking.
Like when you see one of the biggest advocates, somebody
Mhm.
that goes to Jasper with his gear on, Jed Roberts, goes to Jasper with his double E gear on, goes snowboarding with his family, represents everywhere he goes. And to see that guy run out of steam for the Elks, to see that guy run out of positivity for the Edmonton Elks, and then, to see how things have changed now over the last 2 to 3 weeks, as this news rolls out and as alumnus start speaking up on this, and as this news starts to develop even harder, this is a time bomb.
Yeah.
Ownership needs to come ASAP. Let's see. There you go. I like what Daryl says here in the herd chat. Trent brought a scary proposition to light. After this many missteps, and we're supposed to trust this board. We'll select the current.
Right.
We'll select the current owner of the team for the foreseeable future. Scary
Because
stuff, man.
Just to confirm, they have the power to veto it, correct?
The board has power. That's
Mhm.
that's the problem that Daryl's talking about here.
Mhm.
The board has power.
Too much.
Too much power, and we're going to trust them after they have just screwed up this organization, screwed up even as far back as the Len Rose days, right?
Well, I think the hope here is that the board, even if they have their own selfish, reasons or whatever, that they may not necessarily
vaping
be
on this
looking they may not necessarily be looking for an owner that has the best interests of the team. Let's just make that assumption, worst case scenario, they really are selfish and they don't care about the state of the team. They just want somebody to buy it. My best case scenario, my hope is that whoever does decide to buy it has the team under their best interests.
But it can't just be money. You can't just walk in and
No.
say, "Oh, let's throw money at our
No.
problems." No. And this is what Trent was saying, and this is what the alumni are saying. This is what fans are saying. This is what everybody in the atmosphere of Double E and Edmonton Elks, this is what the people want. They need to be able to love this team and pour their heart and soul and actually give a rat's ass about the history. Like, even in this horrible mishmash of an organization right now, in transition, in trying to find a win, XYZ, whatever's going on with this organization, at least they are rolling out the all decades. They're still honoring the 75th. They're trying to do the best they can. There's people in that organization that are working their derrieres off.
Well, and that's just it. There's people in that organization that care. We have, the Jamesons that are going back into the organization and working for them because he truly has a passion for it.
Yeah.
We have Superfan Mike that is putting his effort, his time, his passion into every single one of those videos that we see, every single one of those collections that we see. We need people like that to run the organization.
You need a Trent Brown or something. But hey, getting back to it though, guys, let's let cooler heads prevail here. One thing that Trent Brown did speak about positively is the tailgate party,
Yes.
which we will say Herdes has served Trent Brown for 2 tailgates in a row now. So he's a friend of the herd as well. But Trent Brown, he did say that tailgating is one of the greatest things going with this organization right now. Brian, you've also been to a Double E tailgate, 1 or 2. You've also been to an Argos tailgate. So what's your thoughts on the rise of CFL tailgating? What's your experience so far? Give us your thoughts.
I tell you what, tailgating has come a long way. Buddy, the camaraderie is what brings the fans to the game. And really, what really truly brings the fans to the game but food and then football. Well, you don't want to go to a game hungry, so you might as well go fed. Have a couple of brews and a bratwurst before the game, hang out with some buds. Well, what more could you ask for?
Well, and what's cool is you've been to like the beginning of the Double E tailgate back in the day, like pre-Elks, right? So, do you remember much of that experience?
Yeah, it was a turnout. It was smaller than what it is now. It's definitely blown up. It's crazy what you guys have done with the tailgate parties, and they can only get bigger.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's
Like,
the hope. I mean, I've seen some of those videos of tailgates in the United States and, at NFL games, and holy moly, right? That'd be cool if we could ever get it to that point.
well, and from what I've heard, this new Lot B, believe it or not, it has been a huge improvement. There's lots of positive reviews on the current setup now. Now that we have some walking lanes, now that things are a little bit more respectful in there, and of course we got more fans in the area. Even Katie, shout out Katie from the park. She's two lots down from us now, two
Right.
stalls down. So she's added. She coming in hot with Jello shots. So that was cool. Like great first time neighbor. But you got to see it in kind of its slower years, or less busy years. And now, dude, I hope that you're here for the next home game. We'll see. I mean, hey, we know that you got a place to stay. But I mean, even the BMO tailgate, the tailgate at the Argos game, it's cool to see how those guys have kind of like Ginger Argo. He's definitely spearheading the campaign,
Yep.
but there's a lot of fans in there, and even fans just like 20 or 30 or 40 stalls away, just tailgating.
But listen, that's what it takes. Just as Daryl says here, let's be honest, that's a fan-built event. Fans drag the team kicking and screaming into this. Just the team being tone deaf over and over, which I definitely agree. But if one thing that we have seen is that if the fans are passionate about it and they really want it to happen, then the team will eventually give in and realize that, hey, maybe that's not a bad idea. And then suddenly the team will back it 100%, which is what they have done this year by even the move that we've seen, right? So I think in many, many ways, fans forget that they truly do have all the power when it comes to a lot of this, because an organization still has to be profitable. An organization has to make money some way. And if the fans walk away, there goes the money. So sometimes it needs to be, you just gotta slap them across the face with something for them to see it. But we're starting to see that now with, we'll talk about it again with Trey starting next game, and even the tailgate becoming a way, way bigger thing than it was even a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and even to add to that, Sinjin here in the herd chat, this team, organization, and city needs passion and heart running this team. It used to be Oilers hockey in the winter and Eve football in the summer, fall. And the tailgate keeps the passion alive, oddly enough.
For sure.
We're not trying to sell you on anything here. If you want to go enjoy 3 hours at Commonwealth Stadium, you go 3 hours before the game down to the tailgate. You enjoy yourself for that 3 hours, because you might not enjoy the next 3 hours of watching the team lose.
And what do we see? At the tailgate, everybody's having a grand old time. Everybody's having fun. Everybody's, having a drink, laughing, visiting, doing a whole bunch of things. So they walk into the stadium feeling good. It's unfortunate that they have to walk away not feeling good. But, the tailgate itself brings that morale up.
Well, and fans have started just tailgating throughout the whole game.
Yeah.
And that's the healthy nature of tailgate.
Yeah, might as well. I mean, at least you have your things. But okay, let's bring it back over here, Brian. So what would you say? Are you a bigger NFL or a bigger CFL fan?
I would almost say even. Kind of watch a bit of both. I don't really watch much NFL these days. I support my team. I catch the odd game, but it's harder to catch Elks games and harder to catch Texans games living in Ontario. And, I mean, you can subscribe to DAZN, but TSN only goes so far for the Elks.
That's true.
The regional restrictions for sports, we need to figure this out. The regional blackouts and all that. Every sport, figure it out.
See, and that kind of leads to my next question. How could the CFL persuade you to even watch more games or go to more games?
Well, the thing that irritates me is even if you're going to have blackout restrictions, play another game. Why have a black screen? Play something.
Yeah.
Or at least give me the option. If you have, say, like Sportsnet or TSN, where you got 1 through 5, East, West Ontario, all that. Play what? Give people the option. If you want to watch West, if it's the Elks game against the Lions, let them watch it. If they want to watch the Argos and Ticats, if it's on at the same time, give them the option. Why take it away from people? Just based on where they live.
Yeah. And what could let's say, the Edmonton Elks are in Toronto and they're going to play. What could the Edmonton Elks or even the CFL do to persuade you to go to the game a little bit more?
Ooh.
Free tickets.
I mean, anything free. You throw me a free hot dog and I'd be down. Give me free Bob Hot Frank.
Well, that's the thing with the Blue Jays. That they always have little things that they're giving away. Even the Argos, like the first 10,000 people, or 10,000, right? First 10,000 people that got a free hat.
I don't remember our last giveaway here in Edmonton.
No.
I remember that I got a yellow towel, yellow double E towel on giveaway. We used to get the newspapers. We got some shade. Yeah, but even then, that's after a touchdown. A lot of people have an opportunity to catch that mini football, right? Yeah. But when you walk in, bobbleheads, Argonauts just did baseball caps.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that we see enough of that type of promotion in the CFL.
No.
Like 50 Cent, the 50 Cent promo, sure, before the game. Sure. Oh, Andrea in there. Hand out the leftovers after the game, like the Riverhawks. You know what?
Hey.
So did you know if you go into the East or the West concessions and you go talk to them, especially on a hot dog night, you can swindle some freebies from them. But you are right. That would be something. Even something like that, you're not wasting. You're not wasting.
Yeah.
Fans know that option is there. It gives you a reason to stay until the zeros.
Very much so. Like, how many times have I seen a Blue Jays game all the way from Edmonton, Alberta, and I see that they're giving away a little bobblehead, and I'm like, oh, I want to go.
Yeah.
Like, I want to book a flight, and I want to go to that game.
But it's that interaction that you need. You need to get the fans involved and get the fans want to come.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what the on-field product is if you still have something that's going to entice the people.
Very much so. And I mean, we do have little mini footballs and T-shirts being thrown, but even then, I did see a post that one of our friends made on Instagram, Colin, and they are sitting on section X where we sit, but they're sitting all the way up, blower ball, but all the way up. And when the team gets a touchdown, they have the little fire truck that goes around throwing mini footballs to the people. But the reality is that those mini footballs can only go so far. Only the people sitting right at the bottom of the bowl will get the chance to get those. I mean, we do have children that run all the way down the stairs. But what if they're not able to? What if, somebody that is not a child that would like to run down the stairs wants one of those as well? Now they have to purchase it.
Need to utilize the T-shirt cannons all over again. So that little fire truck need to put a little cannon on the back and just pew.
Well, and Brian, you were there for the T-shirt cannon days. You remember the big cannon, yes. We also have in the herd chat St. John talking about the drops because John had mentioned they're doing the drops from the upper deck now. So the drop from the deck works great when there's no wind.
Well, even then, now I've seen they don't do T-shirt tosses or mini football tosses off the upper deck.
No,
they just do those little like parachute things.
Yeah,
and really, I even made the mention that those little parachutes always go to the exact same spot because they're not even actually throwing them; they're just letting them go. Yeah. Right. So there's a big gap of people that are actually getting any sort of little giveaways if the team actually does give them away.
No, exactly. And if we take a look, if we go up a little bit in the herd chat here, Andrea, I don't think I've ever seen any giveaways at any Elks game I've been to. So there you go. And then John did actually have the stat. He is correct. The first home game, they gave away 10 to 20,000 antler up T-shirts that we cut up into tank tops. We still got them. And like that's how sad that is. You can count on one hand how many giveaways they've done at the game. The giveaways are part of pro sports. Look at the AHL. Look at the WHL. Look at the Edmonton Oil Kings. They're always giving something away.
The Oilers with the burrito cannon.
Donair cannon. It was
hey, see? Shoot me some food.
Like we have a Popeyes, just wrapped a little piece of chicken and just
get Popeyes more involved with your game day activations, right?
Yeah.
You tell me you shoot food at somebody, they're going to be upset about it.
Listen,
get smacked on the face by a chicken, but it's okay.
enough foam will set you free. All right, getting right there you go, Popeye's chicken cannon. I like it. Here we go. See, mail it all into admin at Go Elks. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know the official email, but hey, there is a contact us page. Slam them with your ideas because they need
just a whole bunch of emails that just say Popeye's chicken cannon.
Something. You throw me a shawarma.
Oh, okay. So getting back to the more you didn't know, Brian. The next question: what is the best CFL game you've ever been to?
Oh boy, that would obviously be my first one. Edmonton Elks against the BC Lions. It was a wild game. It's always, bittersweet. You don't want to see somebody get injured, but when it's somebody that leaves your team and to see him get hurt, you don't wish injuries upon nobody. But, I mean, to see a former quarterback get hurt, you kind of have a little rah-rah. But no, it was just
the crowd being crazy.
Super, super great atmosphere. Pleasantly surprised by the fireworks after the touchdown. That was unexpected for being my first CFL game.
Yeah. That's
we haven't seen fireworks at Commonwealth Stadium for like a year or two now. When we get a touchdown, like we used to get the fireworks every touchdown.
We did last year, didn't we?
I think we might have last year,
a couple of times.
This year we don't see any fireworks because the budget is
true.
Once again another small piece that is
They just
missing.
need to go, out of town to those little towns where they sell a whole bunch of fireworks.
Yeah. Shout out Donnetville. Shout out Donnetville back in the day on the way to Fort McMurray in between Athabasca and Grasslands. Best fireworks.
Yeah.
St. John is also mentioning, of course, the kids club. That is a big positive that they have going on right now.
It's still $15 per kid if you don't have season tickets. Even if you have season tickets, you still have to pay the $15. But that includes, the trading cards, and they also get a camp. They moved it to September because of the weather.
Yeah.
But I know that even then, it's a really good bang for the buck. So I know that they did well with that kids camp. It's a good addition for sure.
No, I will definitely defend the kids camp out of some of the negative with the Edmonton Elks right now. The kids club is actually very positive. The kids get down there, they get involved. It helps the grassroots movement. There's a lot of positivity with that, and our boys always look for the cards. Whenever they hit the room, they're like, "Do we get new cards?" Right? So
yeah, even if they're not around, I always have to make sure that I go and get the cards because they check to see if I got the cards. But all right, we know that Blue Jays are, of course, your number one team ever since you were the wee age of 6. What's your thoughts on their 2024 season?
I'm sure, like majority of people, super disappointing. A lot to relate to the Elks this year, but hopefully with all the trades and stuff, the future might be bright. Freed up some money and all that. So, like the Elks, you can hope for the best, but you don't know what to hope for right at the present moment in time.
Based on all of those trades, it kind of felt like they were doing a little bit of restructuring there a little bit. Do you think that we could see, Do you think that something like that could help the Elks if they were to do something like that?
You can make some changes, but you don't want to go too drastic because then what kind of chemistry do you have in the locker room where you have 5 of the same people from last year? So I wouldn't say completely, flip the script and change absolutely everybody, but the people you do change have to come in and be a part of the group and buy into the program that the head coach is laying down. So everybody has to be on the same page. Doesn't matter if you're been there for 5 years or if you've been there for 5 days. Everybody has to buy into the same program.
As we know, as Edmonton Elks fans, sometimes that whole buy-in piece is a little bit trickier to get.
That's any sports team, but that's just it. With a new coach and hopefully a new voice, you always have that sense of optimism.
No, totally. And then, I mean, we're Blue Jays fans as well. We rock Blue Jays on the show. Go Jays, go. We've gone to a Blue Jays game with you in Toronto. I met Joe Carter with you. So, I mean, lots of love for the Blue Jays over here. Would love to get a Blue Jays podcast going at some point over here at Shuck and Sports Network. But
wink, nudge.
Yeah, wink, nudge. You're natural, Brian. But no, it is extremely frustrating, especially when you see them make those off-season moves and then and Vladdy G not hitting. There's so many storylines.
I mean, if we were to bring it back to the Elks, and I always say something whenever you come to me in preseason and you're like, that team looks great on paper, and then we're suddenly 0-7. You're like, why did you say that?
Well, there's got to be a sense of realism, but there's always a sense of hope at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and so
Very true.
Based off of some of these comments in the herd chat here, Brian, you've gotten to actually go play baseball in the Sky Dome. What is it like getting to hit the field for one of your favorite teams?
I tell you what, it's surreal. Like when you're standing in the same spot as certain legends of the game, like Joe Carter, Jose Bautista, all Vernon Wells, and you're standing there. You do one of these. You look up and you're at center field. You're just doing one of these. You're like, I'm here. I'm literally on the field. Like, pitch me.
Oh, so cool. And the reason why I ask is because the Edmonton Elks, after the game, they allow kids to go run out on the field, especially with Kids Club and some of the other activations they have. Sinjin and Daryl in here in the herd chat. Our boys love getting to run on the field. My boy loves interacting with the players after on the field, getting the autographs. That's part of the magic. Another piece of magic I think a lot of us wish we could make happen. Sorry, fire Ross Atkins into the sun here by Daryl. That's hilarious. You agree.
That would be another piece of magic.
What's the definition of insanity? You're expecting a different outcome doing the same thing. In how many years? Like, come on.
Well, we're Elks fans. Let's go ahead and just combine our the fan forum question. Sure. We already asked the second one. Brian, you are an awesome guest. Are you down for this one fan forum question here?
No.
Oh, okay.
Well, wow. I was not expecting that.
No. Yes. Oh, man, it works every time.
So good. Okay. Let's
discuss.
Let's quickly do a little opening of the fan forum here. We're gonna open up the fan forum real quick, a segment within a segment. We never do this. Usually this fan forum is brought to you by Rouge, White, and Blue podcast. New episode up tonight / tomorrow morning. Go check out Oz and Joe on the Shotgun Sports Network. Everyone's favorite point, white and blue. Quick question here for you, Brian and Kathy. The Elks heard correctly called that Trey Ford should have started against Hamilton. I am just going to go ahead and say that we went ahead and we stated it It was my opinion multiple times.
Okay, that was your opinion. My opinion was that he should have started on the third quarter.
We're both right. We're both right because both of those things didn't happen.
Yes.
Okay, so Trey Ford gets supplanted into the game in the fourth quarter, 10 minutes left. Obviously, at least a quarter too late, if not 3 quarters too late. So our question here, Brian, if Trey Ford loses this game against the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and considering how much fans and organization alike have scapegoated have scapegoated all the many reasons and players and XYZ as to why they've lost. Okay, who's the next scapegoat if Trey Ford and company do not make the magic happen on Saturday?
I can't necessarily think you can go straight to another scapegoat after one game per se. You got to give the kid at least, a couple. I'm not saying that he's had a couple games in the CFL, but with the whole new coach, I don't know if it's necessarily a whole new system, but I'd say give him a couple of games before you try to throw him under the bus and look for the next one. You never know. Bringing him in was a quarter, 3 quarters. I think it might have been a game or two too late. It should have happened a little bit sooner. It's kind of hard to crucify him if he doesn't do good in this one game when you're 0-7 leading up to this. So you kind of give him a chance instead of just one game. Got to give him, a couple, because look what's happened up until now.
Oh, and I like it.
Sorry, I was just going to say that I agree. I agree that you can't really blame the guy if he doesn't necessarily perform as well, because at the end of the day, they kind of threw him into that one, right? He hasn't had the chance to warm up a little bit, to, get going, get a feel for it.
No, so you're right.
It's also one player. You need the whole team to also. One player's not going to completely make or break a game, but it can make a difference. But the whole team kind of also has to perform too.
Very, very true. And going back to your question as to who would be the new scapegoat, I truly believe that at that point we start blaming Jarius Jackson, because once again he is being placed in a position where he has 3 hats and he's not able to perform the 3 positions properly.
Right. Definitely.
Very, 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 very true, Catherine. I think you've nailed it. I think that Daryl may also be onto something. Shivers, just look at the defensive stats. It won't matter how good either quarterback plays. They could get quarterback rating of 156.3 and still lose the game with this porous defense. What about the Swiss cheese O-line? Because that's what I've been scapegoating to almost every game, right?
Yeah.
Take a look at the O-line. Take a look at how much pressure. Take a look at how this constant pressure has borderline demoralized MBT, right? Sinjin here. I like what MBT had to offer, but at 0-7, we have to start looking at developing our future. And this was a scenario that we also saw happen last year. Mm-hmm. For me, I'm like, okay, did they let Cornelius fail to the point where, Trey Ford had to be thrown in? Did they fail on purpose? Mm-hmm. Did they do this to get Trey in as a coup d'etat or whatever from the trenches? Right. You seriously start to wonder this stuff, because a lot of it writes itself, and a lot of it doesn't make any sense either. Mm-hmm. Like MBT, a guy who should be very confident as a pocket passer, cannot seem to make it work. And there was times where the O-line looked great, and he unfortunately didn't quite click at the same time. Something we're going to talk about here in a bit anyway.
But it's like Brian says, it's a whole team effort. Yeah. If your offense is not performing, if your defense is not performing, your quarterback, doesn't matter how good he is, he's still not going to perform. Yeah. Right? That's simple as that. Trey Ford, and we do talk about it on my herd report because I have some stats, but there's been a lot of talk that, it's really hard to figure out where Trey Ford is when he keeps getting put into a game in garbage time.
Well, what does it really have to show Trey Ford when all you're showing is losing, and then all of a sudden you just get thrown to the wolves?
Yeah. Well, and you could kind of tell in Trey Ford's availability today too
Mm-hmm.
that he was nervous. Like he is used to starting, but once you get it taken away and then you get thrust back in, and now it's morphed into something different. It's not the same thing that you're familiar with last year. You don't have the exact same receivers. You don't have the exact same chemistry. You don't have the exact same team, the exact same brand, even, especially with this team.
Mm-hmm.
With this organization, you don't know what Edmonton Elks are getting year to year.
Yeah.
Right now, we have world is on fire, Edmonton Elks, from the top to the bottom, and as certain people would describe it, rotten to the core. But last year, you had hope of Chris Jones turning this around. So really, for Trey Ford, yes, this is less than desirable. I would not want to be Trey Ford in this scenario.
It's a lot of pressure.
Same time, he's somebody that can handle pressure. Oddly enough, MBT, in a lot of these clutch scenarios, I will say has not been able to handle the pressure. I've never really looked at him as a clutch performer, but he's somebody that can get you the numbers. So St. John here, our O has definitely improved overall from last year, minus the O-line. But our D outside of a few players just seems to be stagnant. Trey at least can escape and make a play.
Very true. I mean, and that's what we have seen, right? He is able to move. He's able to think on his, feet and just be able to make plays. But again, is that Hail Marys? Is that panic? Is that, let's just go for it and see what happens, and not necessarily preparedness or being able to go by specific plays that he's supposed to play, right? Once again, that was garbage time what we saw. And he was absolutely amazing at that, but does that translate to a starter position for the whole game?
Yep. How does that translate?
We don't know.
Yeah. How's the defense stack up in those first three quarters? They play off a little different when you're up 20, 30 points.
No, exactly. Yeah. MBT seems to have been more focused on short weeks than right out how to lead this team to victory. And the reason why that statement is important is because we're talking about scapegoats.
Yeah, I mean,
seriously,
he'll find whatever excuse it is, except for his own performance, right? It is, the short weeks. It is this. It is that. Let me get another fine.
That's the whole accountability thing I mentioned way back when.
Yeah, no, it is a bit frustrating, and I do see where egos and obviously confidence and everything else. And if you're scapegoating, you're not confident. I can tell you right now, if I screw up at my job tomorrow, I'm going to take full responsibility. I'm confident that I can fix my F up, right? We're not seeing that.
Yeah.
And we see that sometimes from Trey Ford. We see that spark of confidence. We see that spark of drive.
Well, and that's kind of my point on the scapegoat being the coaching staff, because at the end of the day, if your offense and your defense are not performing, it all comes down to coaching.
Yeah.
Why are the coaches not doing something about it? Why are you not bringing in new players? Why are you not making switches? Why are you not doing this or that? Right? And the reality is that right now we have a lot of temporary positions. We don't know exactly who's going to end up where.
Yeah.
And that in itself, I imagine as a player can be quite stressful too, because
very stressful.
You don't know what's going on. You have no idea what the hell's going on in your team.
Oh, exactly.
So I did say that if there's one thing that I would like to see in the next little bit, like hopefully sooner rather than later, is announcements of who the coaching staff is going to be.
Yeah.
Permanently, not just somebody that is temporarily, having 3 different hats in this organization and clearly not performing in any of them.
Well, and we already got to look forward to next year for that, right? It sucks that we're already on a holding pattern. Unfortunately, as many have already indicated, this whole team and organization is now on a holding pattern until the new ownership comes in and has their way with the team. And unfortunately, it is what it is. I mean, St. John here in the herd chat, at 500K, I don't give a dang about a 4-day week. I get that it's tough, but don't complain about it on a back-to-back against a Red Blacks. The exact same team.
And
you're playing against the exact same team.
They didn't complain.
No.
They won.
They won both games. That's the thing, right? One team is complaining, and the other one won. The other team whooped you. Exactly. So it's instead of pointing fingers, you got to point internally. And just like you've talked about already earlier, Brian, just like Trent Brown had already mentioned, just like other alumnus are talking about, that's the organizational rot from the top to the bottom. The top can't take accountability, and neither can the players on the field. So that means that a lot of people in between in this organization, directly from football ops to upper management, right? We're not talking about business ops. We're not talking about any of the other portions of the business, store operations of apparel, any of that. We're talking about the football aspect of this. It appears that yes, it is very rotten to the core. It appears that nobody does know how to take accountability over there. And it sucks because we as the fans, unfortunately, have to sit and suffer. I think one of the biggest turning points in this game that we're about to talk about here, the fans were going really hard because Lord knows I lose my voice and you lose your voice and I blow an upper lip and we go really hard down in Section X. There came a point where I think in the second or the third, I looked at you and I'm like, yeah, we pay for this. We invest our money in this. This is the garbage that we got to watch on the field.
I think that was the exact same point that a lot of you have seen that screenshot of him in the TV looking up in the sky, clearly saying in his head,
that's what was happening. That's the conversation I was having. I looked up into the sun. TSN captured me launching my thoughts and my eyes into the sun.
That one.
That
yes, that one. Oh, it made me laugh a lot because I knew exactly what was going through his head at that time, and it was just that, right? I mean, as much as we have a question here from John. I wonder how many people are going to renew in October the season tickets. There's a lot of people that will. There's us included, Andrea included. There's a lot of people that will continue to put money into this organization, but unfortunately, there's still going to be moments like that because, once again, it comes down to the product on the field and how many wins we get.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that we're still going to go ahead and renew. There was somebody on X today. I'm not going to say their name, but they went ahead. I saw that, Andy. I saw you in there, Andrea. You know which one I'm talking about. But basically, this guy's like, yeah, you guys need to really reconsider your support and this and that because certain member of the board is absolutely toxic and he's a piece of garbage and this and that and the other. And I'm like, well, if you're asking for us to stop supporting the football team as an organization, which there's a lot of great parts, there's a lot of great people over there. There's this does get a little bit blown out of proportion with what Trent talked about. What Trent talked about was very real. There's also, we got to remember, football ops, upper management to the football ops. That's football ops. That's a completely different department than the rest of the organization.
Of course, and even just the experience itself and the sport itself. Because you can still go and have a good time. If you have a love for the sport, you will still be entertained. At the end of the day, this is all sports entertainment, right? And there you will still have a fun time with your family and your friends, and you will enjoy certain aspects of it. And sometimes that is more than enough to renew your season tickets.
Do you think Toronto Argonauts fans are really thrilled about the whole Chad Kelly scenario?
Nah.
Let's be real. Do you think the Toronto Argonauts fans, and do you think they're proud of their organization right now? Do you think they're really proud of how shittily the Argonauts have handled that subject and that mess? How about even Chad Kelly's agent? Nobody even put forward proper communication to Chad Kelly's agent to muzzle him from social media to help his chances of making the team. Why? Because it still doesn't matter to that organization. I'm not going to directly call out MLSE, but I will say that was a garbage move. A lot of people don't like it. And guess who doesn't care about it? MLSE. They got money. They're going to be able to fund the team. The team's still going to live. They're still going to play at BMO. They're still going to get 10 to 15,000 fans. maybe in 3 years when this fiasco blows over, they're going to see the 23 to 25s again that they were projecting for this year from having Chad Kelly on the roster. Things happen in these CFL organizations, just like any other business. Just like, there's lots of examples I could make, even right here in Edmonton.
No,
But-
even going beyond that, right? You see it everywhere in Hollywood, brands.
Look at Lizzo. Look at that whole Lizzo thing, and people are still going to listen to Lizzo's music.
Of course.
So
It's going to blow up, and it's going to blow over. And people that are true fans.
People forget. Quick memory. A lot of people have a quick memory.
Yeah, it is what it is. And I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell anybody what to support and what not to support. I think that's like one of the more crude things you could do as a sports fan is to tell somebody else, oh, well, why you should never cheer for that team. It's all entertainment. At the end of the day, it's all entertainment. We're here to be entertained. Sure, we're not being entertained in Commonwealth too much lately, but man, if you were a fan and you stayed for that last 10 minutes of football at Commonwealth Stadium,
that was some exciting football.
You were treated to some Trey Ford magic. We're lucky we get to see it on TV this Saturday, and then we got another home game right after that. So, no matter what, I don't agree with turning down or shutting down anybody else's fandom or anything like that, diminishing it. But this isn't the end of the world for the Edmonton Elks, and people need to I see that people need to make sure they don't hold on to this stuff for too long. It's not like any of the board personally hurt you.
Except for the Stampeders. No one should be a fan of the Stampeders.
No,
as Daryl has said on
Okay, yeah, you're right, Daryl.
Listen, if there's one thing that I am definitely teaching my children is their ABCs. So
anyone but Calgary, baby. We might as well just keep Stan the Cat on the show.
See, people still cheer for the
May as well. Hey.
Before we move on to our last segment of the day, we do have Andrea here saying, during these hard times, there's a connection with the fan base that makes this so much fun and worth the season tickets. To be honest, we would continue to be season ticket holders, even for just the fact of going to the tailgate, talking to our friends, having the really good time, enjoying a night out, having a couple of drinks, watching some football, and then walking away with that experience.
You know, like Lieutenant Eric says of Edmonton Sports Talk, shout out to our guys over at Edmonton Sports Talk. The tailgate is undefeated. The tailgate is undefeated. There's 3 hours that you can enjoy at Commonwealth Stadium just because it's not directly in the stadium. And who knows, maybe you're going to get the bonus 3 hours. But no matter what, you're going to have fun at event number one. And the Edmonton Elks have done a fantastic job of building that up. Like we said, in all of this scathing and all of this stuff that came out today, especially with Trent Brown, even Trent Brown is saying, look, the tailgate is still the best time you could possibly ask for. And we'll stand by that. We served over 50 people. We're about to talk about it, but we served over 50 people at Hurdy's. And that warmed my heart more than you know. We saw Andrea and Jason busting out the Philly cheesesteak sliders to fellow fans. 6:30, Chet is getting fed. Edmonton
oh my God,
Sports
I saw
Talk.
them getting fed like 3 times.
I brought them stuff too.
I know, I was walking around and they were getting fed again.
Yeah.
Everybody's going well fed at the tailgate.
So that's exactly it, right? It's a community now. You know, we're stoked to have you in the tailgate, Andrew. We're stoked to have John down there every once in a while. John's there almost every time. Daryl, we see you. We've been missing you. Daryl, we'll get you in there soon. Turf District on the backside. Katie, new neighbor. Neil, the list goes on. There's so many people. LTE in the gang. Dusty swings through.
Oh, well, it's full 3 hours that we don't get to sit and we're always talking and we walk away loving it. Right? It's because we're just chatting away and having good experiences. So, I mean, if anybody wants to just continue focusing on the negative, well, they're negative Nancy's, and that's they get to have the day that they deserve, and that's all it is. But if you're just focusing on the positives and how fun it is, then regardless of the outcome, you can still make something of it.
Oh, it's no matter what. The tailgate's undefeated. We will have our negative moment after a loss, and then we'll have our negative moments on the Elks Call. Otherwise, don't clap at me. Don't at me on X. Don't at me, bro. Don't at the Elks herd telling us to drop our fandom or to stop supporting the Edmonton Elks. We know that we're with these guys no matter what. We're ride or die. We're here for every loss, baby, and we're here for every win.
Yeah.
You know the true fans stick around through thick and thin.
Stan the Cat, how about the fact that you could be cheering for the Hamilton Ticats or the Toronto Argonauts? You've had access to both, yet you're riding with the double E still, right? And that was a big reason why we wanted to have you on the show, is because you're a very unique fan, right? You're somebody from afar, and you're still riding with these guys, man. It's great to see.
Thick and thin, and it even comes full circle, being an Ontario boy from KW and then having Trey Ford come on over. So it's even a little bit extra special.
And that Argos game last year with that crazy pass, right? That was the crazy pass game.
Yeah.
St. John, Section X for life, buddy. You know what it is.
That Section X is wild.
Man. Hey, we're building up the lung capacity for the next one. But we're going to move on to our Edmonton sports update here before we get on to the to Kathy's herd report. But first, we would like to give a big shout out to everybody for tuning in tonight to this episode of the Elks Call, presented by Shotgun Sports. We're here with our guest, Brian Howe, a.k.a. Stan the Caddy, and obviously the wonderful Catherine, a.k.a. Do You Even Elks, with me on your screen's left.
Oh, okay.
My right. Next up, we have an Edmonton sports update.
Hey.
Today's sports update is brought to you by Herdy's. The fan spoke and Herdy's delivered. Over 50 portions of smoked sausage were put between two buns and served into your hands, our fellow fans. Breaking an all-time record for Herdy's Smokehouse. We'd like to thank you, the fans, for visiting stall number 182.
Sorry.
Also, pick up on the name on Herdy's. He's nailed that one on the head.
For the trademark.
That's right.
Listen, folks, your support makes us smoke. Herdy's, we smoke the meats. Your Edmonton Elks are currently 0-7, heading to Saskatchewan to face the Rough Riders on Saturday night. Kickoff is at 5 p.m. Mountain. In the CEBL, the Edmonton Stingers are hosting a playoff game on Sunday at the Edmonton Exo Center to face the winner of the Winnipeg Sea Bears and the Calgary Surge. Tip-off is to be decided. The Edmonton Riverhawks have broken another West Coast League attendance record with over 113,000 fans visiting Remax Field this season. Be sure to catch Riverhawks and Stingers games live on Edmonton Sports Talk if you can't make it to the game in person. And for more on the Edmonton sports scene, check out our weekly sports articles on shotgunsportsnetwork.ca. We're the Elks herd. You're up to date. Time for our commercial break here. We want to thank you for supporting the network by shopping on our affiliated links, which can be found in the description. We're self-funded media company at Shotgun Sports Network. So your support means everything. It also means we keep the lights on here at Shotgun Sports Network. Let's talk about Royal Retros real quick. You know the Throwback Kings. You want to save 10%? Use code Shotgun Sports over at royalretros.com. Kathy, do we have the picture of the Warren Moon jersey that you can get, or the green and gold pride or whatever it's called? There you go.
There it is.
So, Stan the Cat, you have something like this, but it's not quite throwback like this.
Definitely not. The time we were on TV and I was all memorized by the fireworks, wearing the old lizard onesie with the old classic War Moon.
And then you rocked it again last year at BMO, but you didn't have something like this.
No.
So, man, if you want a really good replica to what War and Moon wore, you're going to go to royalretros.com and use code Shotgun Sports, all caps, no spaces. Treat yourself 10% off over at royalretros.com. Also, you can get the Team Canada IFAF jerseys as well, which is freaking sick. So, exclusive. They are the jersey makers. They're the official jersey suppliers for Team Canada at the IFAF. Head on over to Royal Retros. It's so good. Fanatics. We all know Fanatics. There's always something on sale at Fanatics. So if you're gonna shop at Fanatics, use our link in the description. And then Lather without the E, LATHRIMCLEAN all the time now. Smelling crispy, clean. Head on over to Lather, guys. My favorite scent is the sandalwood bourbon. Caddy's gonna Caddy, you got some samples.
Buddy, that cotton candy, ooh, she's gonna be super sweet.
Cotton candy, that's the boys. Our boys love that cotton candy scent.
You know, you said, no, we're not going to give this to Brian.
And I did.
And I was like, who doesn't want to smell like cotton candy?
Right?
Like, seriously.
Better watch out. I might get diabetes.
And I know that you're going to get into that barbershop scent as well. So also Sweet Surrender is a sample you got as well. So yeah, please do let me know so I can let the viewers know how that Sweet Surrender is, because we haven't tried that yet.
Yeah.
First off, with a name like Sweet Surrender, how is it not going to be seductive?
Okay.
Seductive.
Okay, Tony Ayo, it ain't so seductive. Okay.
You know what I mean?
We got to listen to that after.
All
Okay.
right.
And then, so guys, so Lather, getting back to the leather, 50% off over there. Use code ShotgunSports20, all caps, no spaces. Save yourself 20% over at Lather, LATHR, lather without the E.com.
If their slogan is not lather, rinse, and repeat, they have failed.
It's actually smelled damn good, which is, that's pretty good.
Lather, rinse, and repeat.
I think that is actually on their boxes.
Oh, it's even better.
I'm pretty sure.
We're gonna investigate this after. And then we do have a big one coming up. Still, it's a bun in the oven, but holy cow, we have a really good discount code coming up for you guys here soon. A couple meetings away, and it's a big one. It's a big one. You may have even seen me wear one of these, but it is one of my favorite pieces of apparel. So we potentially have some pretty cool stuff coming up for you guys. So thank you very much for shopping our affiliates. Catherine,
Hold on.
we're going to our very last segment of the show. Big shout to everybody that is tuned in right now to the Elks Call on Shotgun Sports Network. Last segment of the show tonight. Really weird. We mishmashed this up a little bit tonight. Little reverse order, but we got Kathy's Herd Report here, where Kathy brings you the latest Edmonton Elks news, transactions, and game recap. The Herd Report is brought to you by the Forge Podcast. Experience the latest in Birmingham sports with Ryan Messer as he gives you the latest news and updates. Find the Forge every week on Shotgun Sports Network, which our new affiliate might even tie in with the Forge, which is pretty cool. So, anyways, Kathy.
Yeah, I feel like we already talked about a lot of the really important points. So, I mean, I'm going to try to make it quick and painless as possible.
Cole's
Just the
notes.
Cole's notes. Well, I mean, we all saw the game. Sometimes it sucks having to do a game recap because it's just reliving what we already went through. So, really.
Meat and potatoes, baby.
Yeah,
Let's get to
you know, there's some really good talking points in there, and just bringing it back to some of the things that we have talked about already. But just to recap, the Edmonton Elks faced the Hamilton Tiger Cats on July 28th, bringing the Elks to an awful record of 0-7 with the final score of 44-28.
Wait.
No, we decided not to use that because it kind of sounds like cheering. Even
No,
though
that sounds like those people when they wanted Trey Ford in there in the fourth quarter. That's
Lord.
we want Ford.
I mean, but let's bring it back to the first quarter, and it was I think it was during the first drive of this game that I seriously started questioning whether McLeod Bethel Thompson was going to struggle a lot. After a couple of passes that gave us a first down, MBT fumbled the ball on a rush. Thankfully, he recovered it himself to continue the drive and give us a series of subsequent first downs. However, that was until he was sacked for a loss of 12 yards. Now, after the game, we were talking to some of the fans, some of our friends, and the son of one of our friends, he said, MBT is really good at rushing backwards. I laughed because
Sounds like the running backs too.
I totally agree with that kid because, every time that MBT gets sacked, we lose yards wherever he goes. And 12 yards is a lot. We went back a lot.
Yeah.
Alas, Boris BD scored a field goal at the end of the drive to give us some points on the board.
Boris Beatty.
Yeah, well, he had a good game. I mean, he had a decent game.
But you know who didn't have a good game on special teams?
Oh, Jake Julian.
Our boy.
We do.
Yeah. Sorry.
You're getting a little too ahead of yourself. Still in the first quarter, Marcus Lewis followed this with an interception, which allowed us to bring the ball back to the 47-yard line for Beatty to score another field goal from there. This was a point that I was like, what the hell's happening? It was a 3rd and 1, and we brought Beatty in at the 47-yard line to do a field goal. Would you have brought in Prukop and do the short yardage to try to punch it through and get another set of first downs, or was getting Beatty calling a good call?
Well, let's ask Brian first.
Okay. What are your thoughts on that?
Man, even throw a quick slant, do something. Except if you're that close, like, I mean, it's not the NFL, but you can't do a quarterback sneak per se. But like something quick, fast, you only need a yard.
And Prukop has been fairly good, in
Right.
the short yardage situation.
And do you remember what I said when we were in the seats?
No.
I was like, oh, they clearly don't have faith in the O-line.
That's right. That's right. You did say that.
I said, oh, why? Like, you should be getting Prukop in there. But if they don't, they clearly don't have faith in the O-line building a wall and getting him over. And that's where I started mentioning, remember the stupid stuff they were doing last year by getting Jamin in on the O-line and getting weird players from the defensive line on the offensive line to try to build that wall and get him over.
That, and the other thing that kind of it came to my head is maybe they also wanted to start bringing some confidence back in BD, because after the previous game that he was losing, he was missing
8 points off the board.
By 6 and your kicker misses 8 points.
I know. That's why it was questionable, because at the 47-yard line, it's like, oh, is he going to miss that one as well? Right?
Daryl here in the herd chat, that was save/loser football.
Yeah. And it was questionable, but you know what? At the end of the quarter, Jake Julian, he did have an out of bounds punt.
Mm-hmm.
So that was his first miss of the game, unfortunately. And we, at that point we were like, he's okay. He's been
out
really
of anybody
good
on the team. I think he's the one player that gets a little bit of a pass.
Yes. Going into the second quarter, the Elks seemed like they had a chance through the first 23 minutes of the game, really. With a couple of single points on punts and a sack by Elliott Brown. But after that, it just kind of went downhill, really, at the end of the second quarter. Hamilton's Kobe Jones, he blocked a punt by Jake Julian, which resulted in a loose ball that was returned to the Elks' 12-yard line. One play later, Mitchell fired the game's first touchdown into the hands of receiver Giovanni Robinson to give the Cats a 13-8 lead. So on the green and gold's next opportunity to answer, it was Jamal Peters' interceptions on MBT that would precede the next batch of Tiger Cats points. So just in all, a series of unfortunate events that happened one right after the other.
Well, yeah, and you saw me over at the other end of the stadium. I have some pretty bad habits in life, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go to the smoking pit. And as I'm walking over, because that was when we went 13, we hit 13, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, it was 13-8.
yeah, they hit 13, so we hit 13-8 score, and then I go over to the other side, and you see me watching, and I could hear what was happening, and I look over and I see that, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I go outside and I see shout out to YAJ, aka You're a Jabroni of Section O, the Ozone represent. I went and saw him out in the pit, and I'm like, yeah, they just scored another touchdown on us. We're down by 2 now. It's like, what? They let in another one? Oh my god, this team. And that's where we were at halftime. And I have other people coming up. Oh no, you guys got it. Yeah, no, it's your game to lose. No, the game's over. At that point for me. Yeah, how did you feel as a fan watching?
Well, no. At that particular point, when I'm sitting watching this happen, I'm like, oh, we're done.
Yeah, exactly.
This is not going to go anywhere. And on the third quarter, we definitely were not getting any better. We weren't able to stop the run during the third quarter. MBT was not able to move the ball at all, much, even if at all. I do get that perhaps MBT is not confident enough on the O-line to do a lot of those long passes or even run the ball himself. But those 2 and outs just killed us.
Oh, yeah.
Killed us. There were a couple of times that I turned around to you and we're like, oh, that's it. We're punting it away. I didn't even realize that we had done that there was a drive going on because it was so fast how quick we were turning it around and punting it out.
Ryan Messer seems to think that we need to hire coach Mike DeFilippo. He and MBT haven't been the same since they got separated. That's Ryan Messer of the Forge podcast on Shotgun Sports Network. He has a new episode up. Everybody go check him out. But I mean, he got to see MBT play in the USFL last year, oddly enough, right? So Ryan Messer has actually seen MBT ball out. And Ryan Messer is actually somebody that thought MBT would have an amazing season up here.
But I would like to know what Ryan Messer has to say about all of these 2 and outs that MBT keeps throwing.
Offensive line. I'm going to point at my scapegoat, offensive line.
Yeah, no kidding. But the defense struggled as well. MBT suffered another sack for a loss of 7 yards. 0 points during the third quarter for us versus the 13 points that the Tiger Cats managed to score. So, fun.
Blasty blast.
Yeah. Fourth quarter came by, and 5 minutes into the fourth period, the Elks were down 41-8.
Cue the stare into the sun.
Gross. While I may not have been sure that we were going to win that game, I seriously did not think that it was going to be that bad. Yeah, exactly. 41-8 against Hamilton. What are you doing? What are you doing? I think that was the most disappointing because I don't think I said this, this team started the season well enough.
Yeah.
We came so close with a lot of these teams that are good. And then suddenly we're 41-8.
Well, and Andrew, yeah, it was awful. I was happy for my friends from Hamilton. I was sitting with those. I mean, hey, good for them too. I mean, props to anybody that was a Hamilton fan in that building. But like we said, when the Hamilton fans stop chirping you, especially when
they feel bad for you.
That's it.
Pity stop.
It's a pity stop, exactly, Brian. So, but then the unthinkable happened.
10 minutes left in the last quarter. Trey Ford is brought into the game. He engineered a 10-play, 84-yard drive that was capped by a 5-yard touchdown pass to Curly Gittens Jr. And then with 2 minutes and 50 seconds remaining, he eluded several Ticat defenders and launched the ball downfield to a wide-open Javon Leake. That was pretty cool to see. I immediately said, that guy, he's a slippery little bugger, and nobody can catch him. Because Holy, if you see those replays, it's pretty amazing. And this turned out to be a 7-play, 67-yard touchdown drive after Gavin Cobb caught a 20-yard pass. Gina Lewis then added the 2-pointer. You see it over there. And after Hamilton's anti
Milanovic Litre,
there you go.
Former Edmonton Elk.
He fumbled, at the 43-yard line. The Elks got back into the end zone on this third straight drive when Ford found receiver Eugene Lewis once again for a 12-yard score.
So look at that, right? The players perked up. All of a sudden, guys are popping balls with their helmets. All of a sudden, the team picked up. The Edmonton Elks, there was a response in changing the goalie, as we say in hockey.
Same thing as fighting in hockey.
Exactly. Or fighting in hockey, exactly.
It was some of the most exciting football that I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was.
For the Edmonton Elks. I jumped out of my seat when I saw Trey moving like he was moving. I was holding my hair. I was doing all the things because suddenly the entire stadium was alive. Everybody was on their feet. Everybody was screaming. Everybody was cheering, laughing, clapping. And we were back for those last 10 minutes of the game.
Which, how often do you feel that building like that? 2 games last year. And
Yeah.
Winnipeg. And that Winnipeg game where we went up like 3 or 4 touchdowns and then we went dry. We all of a sudden couldn't score after. But we got those 3 to 4.
Mm-hmm.
And I tweeted, holy S.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's not too many moments where you feel that excitement. Even though it was the end of the game, you knew that this was setting Trey Ford up to start next game, which is what a lot of us wanted. Look, John, I woke up from my little sleep when Ford went in.
And I mean, he did complete in all. I mean, this was probably the best of the game. 10 out of 15 passes for 121 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a near perfect 157.9 passer rating in less than 10 minutes.
That's better than 156.3 that Daryl put in the herd chat earlier. But
you're perfect.
But the thing is that he actually earned player of the game just based on those stats. So it's like, that goes to show there's not much else you need for stats. There's not much other proof that you need. Trey Ford is your starter.
Yeah. But again, now, playing devil's advocate, this was garbage time. This was high pressure. This was all out, Hail Mary. Let's do whatever we can. Can he perform the same as a starter for the whole game?
Well, and I think what our better question is, what's your expectations? I think let's go into the Saskatchewan game real quick. Let's kind of do a fast forward here. Let's talk about our predictions. But realistically, as an Edmonton Elks fan, what is your expectation from Trey Ford and the Edmonton Elks going up against the current best in the West? Brian, what would your expectations be?
Well, I mean, you can't go reaching for the stars, but you still got to expect him to go out and try his best to ball. You can hope that he recreates that same magic and continues it for a full 4 quarters instead of just 3 quarters of one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You also got stingy defense on that other side, so you got everybody's got to put in their efforts, on both teams, on the opposing team and our team. So everybody's got to try, and we can hope that Trey Ford brings that spark and lights that fire.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
What do you think?
And no, I completely agree. I think Trey has something to prove. Right now, he understands that he is the one that the fans want. And that's a little bit of extra added pressure. We can't just completely ignore the fact that he perhaps hasn't gotten as much training and development as we would like somebody to have to be a starter in a starter position. He really hasn't had a lot of game time, field time for him to go in confidently, knowing that he's just completely going to kill it, especially when you have other parts of your team that are not performing as well as they should. So I mean, there's, I think, as Daryl says here, we need to be careful with our expectations. We can't expect the same performance against a low-level Ticats team in garbage time versus Corey Mace blood and guts league best defense, right? So we have to keep that in mind. And if Trey turns out that he does not perform to the same standard, then now we have him after this last game. People need to kind of take it down a notch and realize that it's not just on him.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, there's got to be some realism too. Like even like the other green and gold with the Packers. Everybody hated Aaron Rodgers coming in under Brett Favre. Everybody hated Love coming in underneath Rodgers. I'm sure there's some pressure on Ford to come in under MBT, but you still got to go and ball regardless of who you are, what your name is on the back. You always got to play for the name on the front.
That's exactly it. And with the whole Love and Rodgers scenario, I think that's interesting because Rodgers never got injured. Rodgers was starting in front of Jordan Love for 2 to 3 years. Okay, so Jordan Love had that full developmental opportunity. Nathan Rourke under Michael Riley back when he was with the BC Lions had that full year, had at least a full year of true elite quarterback development. Trey Ford still isn't getting that. Okay. Now Trey Ford is on a contract year coming up. So this scenario is really screwed up. The Edmonton Elks could have done enough to basically kiss Ford goodbye. That's a very real possibility. The Elks have backed themselves into a backing up of the Brinks truck scenario. They got to pay Trey Ford if they are really banking on him for the future. Based on what we're seeing, he is the most suitable quarterback right now for the Edmonton Elks. With that offensive line, with how this team is set up, how you need to, basically they always need to keep honest. They need to keep a spy. Now the other team needs to keep a spy out there to keep an eye out on Trey Ford, an extra linebacker to swoop in, not just on the running back, but also on the quarterback. So there's things that you change by having Trey Ford out there, right? There's a big benefit. Oh, we hear Saul yelling in the background. But yeah, no, as far as expectations, I expect a competitive game. I want to see Trey Ford play competitive. I want to see him play good football. I want to see the team make it close again. Because right now, this team is stepping back with every game. All of a sudden, that gap went from 3 points. It went from walk-off to 3 point to touchdown to now you're getting blown out. And we just need to get it back to competitive. If you see progress week in, week out, you believe your team's going to win. Which we've believed this team's going to win for 5 or 6 or 7 games.
For me, the ideal situation, and I believe we were talking about this with LTE after the game, the ideal scenario, in my opinion, would be having MBT and Trey Ford playing tandem.
Yes.
Like you don't know when you're going to put one or the other because each one of them has their own strengths. And we know that. MBT can be a good quarterback, especially if the rest of the team is kind of playing with him instead of against him, right? But we're paying MBT for a reason too. Let's just not let $500K go to waste. Utilize him. Utilize the tools that you have smartly. You know that Trey Ford can do certain things that MBT can't. You know that MBT is able to make some of those long passes in accuracy that perhaps, Trey Ford doesn't quite have yet. And then we have Prukop on the short yardage. Like, really, what more do you want? Utilize them properly and don't let the other team know what's coming. Yeah. Right? Maybe they expect MBT to go there and then boom, suddenly Trey Ford, here it is. You haven't had enough chance to review film or whatever, talk to your team to know what's going to happen.
Keep them guessing, right? You switch it up, you keep them guessing. You got those different quarterback styles in there. The spies in, the spies out, you can really mess up a defense like that. I like this comment here in the herd chat from Daryl, hoping for the best, but I won't be shocked if it doesn't go well. The only thing worse would be Kerwin Bell or MBT standing behind center like the Statue of Liberty for that rider to tee off. And, that's been a complaint of mine with this team and specifically with MBT. He's just holding on to that ball too long. He doesn't read those defenses swooping in quite fast enough or his blind side. With the offensive line, the blind side goes unprotected. and then we lose that ball, it fumbles away, or he gets sacked, or whatever, right? Once again, standing behind there like the statue, stand outside forever like the Statue of Liberty. Rest in Pimp C. Rest in peace, Pimp C. But anyways, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. It just this team needs to see progress. We're hoping for progress. Kathy, I know that there's some transactions.
Yeah, we just have one transaction on July 31st, so that was today. We signed American defensive back JJ Ross. And as for injuries, we did get quite a few. We don't know the extent of them. I'm just talking as of today, so there's still quite a few days before we go ahead and figure out whether they're playing or not.
I didn't see any of these.
But as of today, Kevin Brown had limited participation in practice due to a shoulder injury. Noah Curtis did not participate in practice due to a shoulder injury. Marcus Lewis did not participate due to a foot injury. Niles Morgan, limited participation, hip injury. Purefoy did not participate due to a knee injury. Arkell Smith had limited participation due to a chest injury. And Hunter Stewart, limited participation due to a head injury. So
that's absolutely horrible. I mean, Noah Curtis had a good game. Kevin Brown, you never want to see him out.
Marcus Lewis had a good game.
Marcus Lewis had a fantastic game. He had an interception or two. Luches Purefoy, you never want to see Luch go down. Arkell Smith, he's been making plays at receiver.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, there's no out. We did not receive the notification that they're out for sure.
Yeah, but those don't look good.
But they don't look good. We still have a couple of days before the game, so hopefully that will be enough for at least some of these guys to come back.
Yeah, I mean, we are lucky that we have a little bit of a gap there. So see what happens. I mean, obviously it's a little bit of a short week, but we're on Wednesday. Tomorrow's Thursday. Pretty much we'll find out Thursday, Friday. Most likely tomorrow is. I think tomorrow is like the cutoff for that, right? So we'll find out. Nice. He's the kitty has made his way in.
So what's next? We have the Elks at Saskatchewan on Saturday, August 3rd at 5 p.m. What is your prediction?
30-27 for the Saskatchewan Roughriders, especially based on those injuries. We did get guys back. Unfortunately, we lost too many. So it's going to be tough. Maybe Trey Ford pulls off the miracle. The one thing we can say is that a lot of fans will be tuning in. It's potentially game of the week. It's a really, really big. It's a really, really big game. A lot of fans are going to be tuning in. So,
what's your prediction, Brian? Wow.
You never know. They might be able to pull one out and maybe pull off a W. But you know, I'll go on the air of positivity here. We're going to get our first W of the season. How about that? Call it a bold prediction.
Yeah.
Coming in hot.
Daryl, I agree with you. I never want to say my predictions either. So
I don't want to jinx it, but at the same point.
Yeah.
But hey, we got John here saying first win Saturday as well.
Love it.
I like that. We got to throw some positivity in the air. There's been a lot of negative juju right now around this team, so we want to spread some positivity. Let's say 30-27. Edmonton Elks.
No.
Changing that prediction. Let's get our first win. How about we get a win?
Do it.
How about we talk about something positive next week on the Elks Call? Now, we'll see. Maybe Brian will be on a future episode, but for today, Brian, man, we got to thank you for joining the show. You were a fantastic guest.
No, thank you, guys. It's been an honor and a privilege to be a part of this.
Love it. Andrea in the herd chat. I'll be optimistic as well. Dub on Saturday.
It's happening.
It's going to be a big one. We got to get it. Speaking of big ones, this episode almost 2 hours long. So we are shut it down. It's all the time we have for today. Herd chat, you guys blew it up today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. Brian, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Oh man, this was fantastic. Our viewers today, whether you were watching the show on YouTube or on Facebook, big shout out to you. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. If you're listening, you're more than likely listening on TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Edmonton Sports Talk, or your favorite podcatcher. We salute you. Once again, from the Elks Herd, my name is Scout, aka the Rep from Section X.
I'm Catherine, aka Do You Even Elks?
Saul is yelling in the background. That's Brian Howe, aka Stan the Caddy. We are the Elks Herd. This was the Elks Call. We're going to catch everybody on the next episode this Saturday. Go Elks, go. Stop those watermelons. Thanks again, everybody.
Have a
Big
good
W.
day.
Cheers, everybody.
Have a good